Hi, and welcome to Needle Creations video workshop. Today we're going to work on a crochet goat. This is an intermediate level, so some knowledge of crochet would be helpful. Everything that you need is in the kit. You have instructions. You have your fiber fill, and you have your yarn, floss. There's a button, a sewing needle, that's for sewing the button on, plastic eyes, plastic needle, and a crochet hook. Now when your yarn comes in a hank like this, it's best if you roll it into a ball. It's going to make it a whole lot easier to work with and you won't have a tangled mess. And you're also going to need a pair of scissors and a tape measure or a gauge check to check your gauge.
There's a great set of instructions. The skill level is listed as intermediate. Make sure that you understand your instructions before you begin and practice the stitches being used so that you don't become overwhelmed working on your project. Your kit will come with a 3.5 millimeter hook. It may be white, it may be blue. Many of us have our favorite hook, but we recommend you use the hook that comes with this kit to maintain gauge or the tension of your fabric so you won't run out of yarn. There's 5 different areas to a hook: the head, the throat or the neck, the shaft, the thumb rest, and then the handle. You can hold it like this, or you can hold it like this. The head of the hook is smaller and pointed, so it makes it easy to go in, but your stitch should always be equal with the shaft part of your hook, and that also will help you with your gauge. Many crochet instructions will include a gauge check before you begin. Having the correct tension, which is how tight or loose you crochet, is important to your project coming out to the correct size and will ensure that you don't run out of yarn. You'll single crochet a swatch and you'll count the number of rows and stitches across to make sure that it matches what your instructions say. Also on your instructions, you're going to see your abbreviations. Make sure you understand each one, the colors of the yarn, the various stitches. If you have to repeat any instructions, you will see an asterisk or brackets. Then your other abbreviations. Each instruction sheet will have great graphics on what stitches are used for this project. If you need a refresher to practice any of them, please check our crochet stitches video.
Let's get started. Now you can see I've already rolled my yarn that was in hanks into balls. It's going to make it easier to work with. We're going to begin with the head. You're going to make a slip knot on your hook, and you're going to chain 2. Now we're going to work in rounds, so we're going to work 6 single crochet in that second chain. This is 3, and working over your tail. 4, 5, and 6. Now count your stitches, make sure you can identify your stitches. This may look like a stitch, but it's not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is our first single crochet. Insert your hook in there, pull your loop through, slip stitch, and join. And pull the tail to tighten. That will close the opening. Chain 1. Now we're going to begin increasing. So we've started with 6 stitches. We're going to increase to 12. So that's 2 single crochet in each stitch around. Is 10, and 12. And then you're going to join into that first single crochet. Again, make sure you identify your stitches and count backwards from where your last stitch was completed so you know you have 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Insert your hook into that first stitch, pull a loop through, slip stitch, and join. Chain 1. Now we're going to continue increasing. Your increases will be in brackets, so we're going to single crochet in the first stitch, and it says 2 single crochet in the next. That is what we call an increase. And now we have 18 stitches. And again, make sure you can identify where you're joining. At this point, I suggest you weave in your tail. You've already pulled it tight to close the opening. So make sure you have a long enough tail to where you can weave it through. And we're just going to weave it through the back loops of the stitches a couple of times, and this will secure it, and then you can clip it and then we're going to continue on. Now we have 18 stitches. We're going on to round 4, where we're going to, again, following the brackets, single crochet in the next 2 stitches and increase in the next. Remember, an increase is 2 single crochet in that next stitch, and single crochet in the next 2 and then increase. All right, now continue in this manner, continue increasing through round 4. Rounds 5 through 10, you're going to work evenly around. Each round is going to be single crochet, 24 stitches. Now on round 7, you place your markers for your eyes. And this is an even round of 24 stitches you're working. You're going to single crochet in 9 stitches, place a marker, single crochet in 6 stitches, place a marker, and then single crochet in another 9. That gives you your 24 stitches. Now once you reach round 10, you're going to start decreasing so you can shape this into a ball. Again, the instructions are in the bracket. Chain 1, single crochet in your next 2 stitches, and then we're going to decrease, and you do that over 2 stitches. So you insert your hook, pull up a loop, insert your hook in the next stitch, pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through. You've got your decrease here. Single crochet 2, decrease. So you pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through. Single crochet 2, decrease. Now continuing in this manner, following your instructions, you're going to decrease down to 12 stitches. Here's our head completed. At this point, I like to go ahead and punch the eyes, and your eyes are like little plastic screws. And you can see we're going to insert where your marker is. Pull out your marker, or you can leave your marker till you get it attached. Now when you put the holding cup on the back, you make sure to press it very lightly. Don't push too hard, you'll push it all the way through and you hear it click. And there's our first eye. And place the second one. There we go. And we have our head completed with the eyes. Now next we're going to make the nose. It's worked in the same manner as we began the head, with a chain 2, working in the round, joining your rounds, following the instructions on your increases. And this is a very small piece, it's only 4 rounds, and then we're going to stitch on the features. So you're going to thread your needle with the black yarn. I like to keep my joining seam to the lower end. Bring the needle up through the center. We've already woven that in, so we've closed it, and it's a nice tight joining. Leave a little bit of a tail so you can tie this off, and then you're going to angle out and make a V. So come up over rounds 1 and 2, that's 1, that's 2. So up here, then over, back down through the center. We have our V. Then we're going to make the line from the round 2 and 1 up from the bottom. And I'm going to come across over here because we're going to add a smile. And you can make this smile as big or as small as you like. And there we have the nose. Tie this very lightly. You don't want to pull too tight. And pull the yarn out. We'll be adding a little fiber fill as we sew it to the head, so that will hold in place. Now we're going to move on and make the legs and join the body. You make one leg, fasten it off. Do not fasten off the second leg. After you've completed round 13, you're going to join the legs together to start creating the body. So round 14, we are going to chain 1, single crochet in 10 stitches, which is how many stitches you have around your legs. So you're going to do round 14. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now you're not going to join this round, you're going to chain 2, pick up the first leg that you made, insert your hook into the joining, single crochet, and then single crochet in the next 9. That'll give you 10 stitches on that leg. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that's 10 stitches on each leg. Then we're going to make sure you keep this straight. Now that can be a little awkward trying to hold it to make sure that it stays in place, but you can see your chain 2. You're going to insert your hook into that first chain. 1 and 2. There's the 2 chain. And then we're going to join to that first single crochet. So you're going to have 24 stitches. You had 10 stitches on each leg, and you've chained 2 to join them, and you're working on both sides of that, so that gives you 4 extra stitches. Continue in the same manner. The next several rounds you're going to work evenly around, so make sure you have 24 stitches. And then decreasing, following the instructions. And you can see here how by decreasing we've shaped the body. So this is your body. You're going to have several color changes. Now here's where you make a color change, and the same thing is true for the body. We're going to start the arms, and again it's worked in the same manner as we began the head, working in the round, and we've worked the first 5 rounds, and now we're going to change color. So to change color, you just continue working. Instead of joining, you're adding your new color at the join. So you're going to insert your hook, pull that new color through, chain 1. I like to tie it just to hold it in place. Now don't cut off your first color. Leave that to the back because you're going to be making stripe rounds. And we're going to work over that tail so it'll work in. With this being so tiny and small, I find it sometimes easier to kind of place my finger inside the top as I'm working around. It helps me to keep the, because they can be a little difficult to work with. And there's only 6 stitches, so these can be a little tedious. And again, when you join, you're going to change color. Following your instructions, it'll tell you when to change. So we're going to insert our hook at the joining, pick up the next color, pull your loop through, tighten that, and continue. Once more, we're going to drop that color, pick up the next, tighten that, and continue around. Continue in this manner until you've completed all the rounds. And now we have our arms. All right, now we're going to make the bow tie. We're going to begin with a slip knot on our hook. I like to leave several inches because you're going to wrap this at the end. So we're going to begin with a chain 4. Then you're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So a double crochet is where you've wrapped your yarn over your hook, insert it in that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. Do a second double crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. Then we're going to chain 3, slip stitch into that same chain stitch. This becomes the center of your bow. Then you're going to chain 3 again, 2 more double crochet in that same chain, another chain 3, slip stitch again, and now pull your tail so that closes it. Cut off about 6 inches. Fasten this off. And then we're going to wrap. We have 2 pieces. We have your beginning and your ending tail. Wrap one of them around one direction, the other tail in the other direction. This is where it would be handy to have extra fingers and hands. But you're going to tie that on the back. To secure it. There. And there we have our bow. And then you're going to use the tails to sew it. So now we have completed all of our parts. We have the bow tie, the head, the ears. There are horns, our body, the arms, the nose, and the suspender. And the suspender is nothing more than just a chain 18. And there are all of our pieces. Now we're ready to assemble Mr. Goat. Now you're going to take a length of brown yarn for the stitching on your ear. Insert your needle through the opening. It shows you how to do the leaf stitch. A leaf stitch is much easier to do on fabric than it is on a crochet fabric. So what I have found to be easier is to work angling rows back and forth. Leave a tail inside, don't pull it all the way. Work over a couple of stitches. This isn't the same as doing a stitching on a fabric. And then you're just going to start angling stitches. And you can stitch your inner ear in another manner. This is your own creation. And you're not always placing your needle within the openings of the stitches. You're actually having to go through some of the stitches, which makes it a little more difficult. That's why I say it's much more difficult stitching on a crochet fabric than it is on a cloth fabric. And do one side and then go back and do the other side rather than working it back and forth. And then I'll start working up the other side. And you can stitch this however works easiest for you. And again, you got to make sure that you're not picking up the back either. You're just stitching this on the front. Continue in this manner, but you can see how this is going. So you can shape this how you like, but that's how you're working your stitches. And now we're going to stuff our pieces. Take your fiber fill from the package. It's very packed in, it's condensed, so fluff it out just a little bit. Makes it easier to work with. You don't want to rip off too large of a chunk at a time. And we're going to use your thumbs to stuff the head, and you're shaping it as you go. So you just kind of push into the center. And if you have any issues, you can always use the end of your hook. This helps you just poke it in. And you're just going to want to shape it a little bit. And you can always add more fiber fill before you attach the head to the body. So we have our head. Now, the arms, you're definitely going to need your hook to push and shape. Take a small piece and don't overstuff those. So we have our arms, and the same thing with the body and the legs. Shape it as you go. As you're crocheting, you can add your fiber fill once you start creating the body, if it's easier for you to do that. You need to pull off a small piece for your nose. See how that fits in? And then I'll add it as I'm stitching the nose on. So I'll stitch it around, leave an opening to put it in there because it makes it easier to sew on. But this gives you an idea on how much you'll need. So you've stuffed all of your pieces, and now we're ready to start sewing them together. We're going to start with the nose. Position it between the eyes. Count your rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's where your eyes are. So you're going to place your nose right below that, between the eyes. Center it. And if you have plastic pins, that would be a great way of holding this in place. But this is what I like to stuff it after, or just before I finish it off. It makes it easier to stitch. And make sure you keep it straight. Now right here, before I complete that, I'm going to go ahead and insert the fiber fill right at this point. So that way I can get some shape to the nose, make sure I have it on properly. Run that through and leave that tail bare. Next, we'll add the horns. You just kind of center them on the top of the head, position them where you want. And this is on rounds 1, 2, 3. So somewhere in here is where you're going to place. And I run the yarn through both rounds, and then I'll pick up one stitch just to make sure I have that positioned properly. Now before I finish that one, I'm actually going to do the same thing with the second one to make sure that I like the way they're positioned. So again, rounds 1, 2. So we're going to come through here. This is 2 and 3. I think that looks good, so we'll complete stitching it down. All right, and we have our horns. Now we're going to stitch on the ears. Position them to each side of your horns, and it'll tell you which rounds to use. And I always like to stitch from the back first. And bring it forward. And sometimes it's a little difficult picking up your stitches. Be patient while you're stitching. Okay, and again, run my yarn to the back, and we're going to take our second ear, complete stitching it down. All right, so now this just helps me make sure that I've got them secured. I'm going to tie the ends off because I've come between stitches there. And I'll take both pieces, run them through to the end, and I'll clip those. And our ears are in place, and so are the horns. Now our head's completed. And now I like to go ahead and add the beard. So you're going to cut 4 2-inch pieces of the white yarn, and it's attached right around the nose. So we're going to center your 4 stitches that you want to use. Insert your hook, as I've shown here, from the back to the front. And you have to be patient with this because these are small pieces. Pick up the strand. Pull through. There, got it through, and then you're going to pull those through. We're going to do this 4 times. All right, so there's the beard. And what you're going to do, if you have a brush, like a dog brush or a wire brush that you want to use, I use the needle to just separate the strands. This is a 4-ply, so you've got 4 strands in each. And you're just going to kind of fuzz it out a little bit, pull them apart, and then we'll trim it. You may want to shake it out a little bit if you don't have a brush. And then we're just going to trim this. And there you've got your beard. And you can trim that even shorter if you like. I like it like that. And you can fuzz that out more. Now we're going to attach the head to the body. Now you have a tail on both the body and the head. I like to start with the tail on the head. And you can actually work over the stitches then toward the back. Keep your seam to the back. Make sure you're not stitching your beard in, and matching your stitches. Center your head and pick up stitch by stitch. I'm going to take the other tail and just work a couple of stitches to work that in. We can clip that end. I'm going to leave that tail for the moment. Then we're going to stitch on the arms, right at the joining where the last round of the body. Sewn on the same way the ears are. I like to stitch from the back first. All right, so that's our first arm. And then you're going to run your yarn through the side, pick up a few inner stitches because you're going to stitch the arm down just slightly to the body. This sometimes is a little difficult. I'll put another stitch in here. And then I'll bring it through to the back. And I've gone ahead and attached the tail to the back, sewn on the same way the arms and the other pieces are. Then we're going to attach the suspender, and we're going to place it as it's facing you. You go in on the left side, run your needle all the way through. Don't pull the whole piece through, but pull it through partially. Take it over the right shoulder, pull it to the back, run a stitch right through to where your other piece, your tail is. Make sure you have it straight and not twisted. We're going to tie it. Run your ends through. Clip that. And then you have a button that you're going to place right at the very edge of where your suspender was. So you're going to thread your sewing needle with a length of white floss. Now I've already tied a knot in the end of that. I'm going to come up underneath, pull that through, and then we're going to just run a couple of stitches through the button to hold it in place. And then I'll run my needle through to the back. Clip it. Clip that little piece that's the tail. And then we're going to add the bow tie. This is the front. Now you can see we tied it in the back, and you've got two ends. And again, we're going to center it, take a stitch. You're going to work over two stitches, so just run that through to the back. Use the second one. Move over a stitch. Run that through to the same position. Tie that. And I'm going to run this through to secure it. Clip your ends. And now all we have to do is the top stitching. You're going to do top stitching just to kind of shape your pockets. and then around the leg. Now I find it easier to come in from the back. We're going to do the pockets. Come in, oh, maybe 3 stitches from the side. Don't pull it all the way through, just pull it so it's inside, and it will hold in place. And we're just going to top stitch. This creates top stitch, but it's actually like back stitching around 3 rounds. Then come over and curve it. And then when you get your pocket, you're going to come down, just run your needle down to the leg, come through that first round of the brown where you've changed color, and do the same thing around, and you're working in every stitch. Run that through, fasten off. You've got your top stitching. Do the other side in the same way, and your goat is complete. And if you have any questions, you can contact us via email, help@askacrafter.com. I love to crochet.